Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be looking at AZERITE gear for patch 8.1, and we'll be looking at some of the changes, some of the early changes that are happening to healing classes. We'll be mainly looking at healing classes, AZERITE gear, mainly because a lot of the people that have negative thoughts about BfA, a lot of it is stemming from the AZERITE system. Blizzard has mentioned that AZERITE is going to be your new tiers, and they don't really feel like that at the moment. A lot of the AZERITE traits are pretty bland, pretty boring, reworks of what they had in Legion. A lot of them are reworks of what they had in Legion in terms of trinkets, in terms of tier sets. They've been brought into BfA. So let's look at AZERITE traits for patch 8.1 and whether they're going to make you feel more engaged in terms of the gameplay, more engaged in terms of your healing class. We won't be looking at numbers specifically because the numbers will change. We'll be looking at basically the gameplay alterations that are associated with equipping these AZERITE traits. First of all, we'll look at Restoration Druids. As you can see here, Resto Druid Tranquility has been nerfed, which I feel is a little bit weird because, again, Tranquility is one of the best healing throughput cooldowns in the game, especially when combined with things like Flourish, and it's really strong. But to an extent that it requires a nerf, I don't feel is necessary, mainly because Resto Druids overall in raiding scenarios are not really overpowered. I feel they're in a pretty good spot. I feel if you can optimize your Tranquility, especially with things like Inner Peace, Talents and things like that, you can have really good healing numbers, and your Tranquility is probably going to be one of your top or second heals. But they don't really feel overpowered. They don't feel like, oh, we're gonna have to stack Resto Druids because Trank is so strong. It's not really like that, especially because Tranquility has been changed on how it works with a second Resto Druid, but that's another question. So in terms of the AZERITE gear, Autumn Leaves has been changed. Now it increases Rejuvenation's duration by 1 second, and it also heals for an additional amount when it's the only heal over time on that target. Again, this AZERITE trait, or an AZERITE trait to do with increasing Rejuvenation's duration, was mined at the start of BfA, and people were wondering, where is this trait? I saw this trait somewhere, but I can't get it from raids, I can't get it from dungeons. So they kind of decided to bring it back in 8.1. And I feel this is a positive step because a lot of the people who played Restoration Druids in Legion, they kind of missed that, you know, longer rejuvenation. All of a sudden now rejuvenation is 15 seconds. If you probably stack this trait, you'll get 3 additional seconds, so it'll be 18 seconds, which is pretty substantial. It's nothing to be, you know, laughed at. Overall, maybe this trait, Autumn Leaves, become more viable in 5-mans because the old iteration of Autumn Leaves was absolutely terrible for 5-mans, while it is one of the best traits for raids. So a lot of Resto Druids would pick Autumn Leaves for raids, and then they would have to swap away for 5-man. So maybe people who play that Resto Druid DPS build where they want to minimize the amount of global cooldowns used on healing, and they want to go back straight into kitty form and DPS, maybe this is going to be more interesting. Overall, I feel this is okay. My only problem is that if it becomes too powerful, because Blizzard has had issues with estimating the power of increasing Rejuve by a certain amount. In Legion with the legendary shoulders, they were extremely overpowered. It took like months before they got nerfed, but they were so strong. So hopefully this is not gonna become the best AZERITE trait for everything by miles, because you wanna have a competition. Now, another trait that I kind of like is Early Harvest. When Wild Growth expires, it heals the target for a certain amount if they're injured, or if they're not injured, it reduces the cooldown of Innervate by 1 second if they're not. So I'm assuming this is per person. If it is per person, so for example, Wild Growth affects 6 targets, you press Wild Growth expires, no one needs additional healing because everyone's already been topped up, so your Innervate gets reduced by 6 seconds. And if you have Tree of Life, with Tree of Life, your Wild Growth is affected, 2 additional people are affected by a Wild Growth, so all of a sudden maybe 8 seconds for Innervate cooldown. So this is really interesting, and I feel this is kind of gonna add value to Wild Growth in itself for BfA, because in Legion, Wild Growth was extremely strong to an extent that you probably would spam Wild Growth whatever it's on off cooldown, and in BfA it kind of changed because Wild Growth lost a lot of its power, and all of a sudden it was more of a question of whether you have the mana to sustain Wild Growth usage or Wild Growth spam. And I feel this AZERITE trait is gonna improve your Wild Growth, make it stronger, and also the fact that, you know, more Innervate. Probably with this trait you'll want to use Innervate as early as possible. Anyways, in raid scenarios, you want to use Innervate as early as possible so you can get more casts of Innervate. With this AZERITE trait, you want to make sure every time that you'll be casting Wild Growth that your Innervate is on cooldown, so you'll get that cooldown reduction happening through it all the time. So overall, it's pretty interesting. If you look at Switch Hitter An ability from your chosen affinity grants an additional bonus. So you have 3 affinities. You have Guardian Affinity, you have Feral Affinity, and you have Balance Affinity. And on top of the fact that I'm assuming this is just a default bonus, Swiftmend absorbs 7,000 or a specific amount of damage. I'm assuming that this is going to apply to the target that you heal and not just yourself. Like again, I can't really test these out because PTR don't have these traits on them available yet. But overall, like Frenzy Regen, you get Avoidance, which again is it's situational. But every time you're going to shift into Bear and use Frenzy Regen, you're probably in some kind of a trouble. So getting Avoidance is pretty good. Ferocious Bite if you're in Kitty DPS. I mean, the speed bonus is not really amazing. I'm not really crazy about it. The Star Surge Leech, again, maybe there's going to be some meta plays coming out that Resto Druids in raiding scenarios will be using Balance Affinity. They'll shift into their Moonkin form, cast Star Surge, get that free Leech, and pad the meters. But we'll see whether that's going to happen. But again, a decent Azerite trait that has some versatility, but I feel it could have better bonuses. If you look at Monks, we'll see that there's nothing really changed in terms of Monks, and Mistweaver Monks have not received any buffs or nerfs, and I feel that's pretty good because I feel they're in a good position right now. I don't think they really need the change. If you look at some of the Azerite traits have changed. Burst of Life. Life Cocoon's cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. When Life Cocoon expires, it releases the Burst of Mist that restores certain amount health split among the targets and nearby allies. Now the 20-second reduction in Cocoon is pretty interesting. I mean, if you have to be using this pretty much on cooldown, and I feel that happens in 5 mans. In 5 mans, Cocoon can save someone's life. It's really good because it gives you that initial absorb straight away. So you kind of feel safe when you use Cocoon for the next couple of seconds. That person or the tank is not going to die. I mean, the healing bonus that happens from Life Cocoon when it expires is probably going to go into overhealing. Like, if you're going to use Life Cocoon on a tank that's 10%, you'll probably spam the tank for the next couple of seconds, try to get them up to full HP. And if no one else in the party is taking damage, this is going to be too hard to control in terms of the healing that's going to provide. But maybe it's going to have some niche scenarios in 5 mans mainly. Like, I mean, I feel a lot of people who raid heroic or normal content in Uldir, maybe a lot of the tanks don't even ask for external cooldown, so it doesn't really impact you that much. But in 5 mans, it might become a situational Azerite trait. Another trait that it's more exciting. After using Thunder Focus Tea, your next spells give 1/30 of a stat for 10 seconds. So Thunder Focus Tea, you have an ability to using multiple spells, and after you use those multiple spells, or whatever spell you choose to use, you'll get a specific stat. If you use Enveloping Mist, you'll get Critical Strike. If you use Renewing Mist, you'll get Haste. If you use Vivify, you'll get Mastery. And if you use Rising Sun Kick, you'll get Versatility. Now, I feel this is somewhat hit and miss, because I feel as a Mistweaver who's raiding, you can't go wrong with Crit and Versatility. Critical Strike and Versatility are very, very safe choices in terms of secondary stats to use as a raiding Mistweaver. And as a raiding Mistweaver, you probably will be using Thunder Focus Tea into Renewing Mist, which is going to extend Renewing Mist, or if you feel that your mana is going to be an issue, you're probably using Thunder Focus Tea into a free Vivify, which is going to make Vivify mana cost 0. But if you look at the Renewing Mist bonus, which is Haste, for me, I've been using spreadsheets, I've been using healer stat weights. Haste has been really low valued secondary stat as a raiding Mistweaver, and I feel I'm kind of stuck in this. Do I want to use Renewing Mist, which is one of the best ways to use Thunder Focus Tea, but with this Azerite trait I'm getting Haste, and Haste is not really that great for me right now, and I'm kind of stuck in this, you know, in this little issue right now. I feel like if Renewing Mist granted you Critical Strike or Versatility, it'll be a much easier choice. In 5 mans, I feel there's no issues with this, because in 5 mans I don't feel that bad about using or gaining Haste, because Haste is very strong for Mistweavers in 5 man scenarios. And in 5 mans I use my Thunder Focus Tea a lot differently. While in raids I basically use it on cooldown to cast my Renewing Mist, or Vivifies on fights where I have mana issues. So I'm not 100% sold on this Azerite trait yet. We'll see how it's going to pan out in the future. For Holy Paladins, Divine Revelation has been reworked. Instead of healing an ally with Holy Light while empowered by Infusion of Light and refunding a tiny bit of mana, it now, while empowered by Infusion of Light, Flash Heal heals for an additional specific amount, and Holy Light refunds way more mana. So this overall has been buffed. Again, this is, you'll notice, it requires an Infusion of Light proc. An Infusion of Light, in order to proc it, you need to cast Holy Shock, and then you need to have enough crit or it's gonna be random when you're gonna get Infusion of Light. It's way more random than it was in Legion. In Legion, you were able to reach that crit cap. In BfA, you can't really do that, so it's a lot more RNG. So I'm not a fan of RNG, but I'm not a fan of what happened to Holy Paladins in terms of randomness in BfA. But we'll see whether it's going to be strong or not. Then you have Ethereal Ward. Lay your hands grants a target a certain amount of armor for 1 minute. 1 minute is a substantial amount of time for a tank, especially like a 5-man dungeons or whatever. We'll have to see whether the armor gain is good enough. Again, lay your hands is 10-minute cooldown. It's kind of situational. Glimmer of Light is probably one of my favorite ones, or in terms of the Azerite traits that I've seen, one of the most, I guess, fun ones and kind of class specific, because Holy Shock leaves a Glimmer of Light on the target for 30 seconds. When you Holy Shock, all targets with Glimmer of Light are damaged or healed for a specific amount. So all of a sudden, you have these mini beacons, which again work with the Holy Paladin class, because Holy Paladins are about those beacons. So your Holy Shock leaves the beacon on the target. Every time you Holy Shock, it's going to heal them. This is kind of interesting. It's all going to depend on the numbers and things like that. But I feel this is one of the more interesting Azerite traits. And then there's been a couple of Azerite traits that have been changed, but that doesn't really matter at the moment. In terms of Discipline Priests have received the most nerfs, and that's not a surprise, because in my previous video I talked about that Blizzard wanted to nerf Discipline Priests because Discipline Priests were doing a lot better, or at least a Discipline Priest who was really good could output really good numbers, really good damage numbers and really good healing numbers. So overall they reduced the smite damage, they reduced Shadow World Pain damage, they increased Power Word Shield mana cost from 2.5 to 2.7, so it'll be less cast, or at least you'll be much more aware of the mana that's associated with shields. Power Word Solace has been reduced from 100 to 92%. Purge the Wicked has been nerfed from 30 to 28, which I feel is a bit weird, because I didn't feel that Purge the Wicked was really that OP of a talent. Not many Disc Priests would use that in raids or 5-man situations. It was very situational as well, but it wasn't an overpowered, or at least it didn't feel like it was an overpowered talent. And then Schism, which is one of the reasons why discs could provide so much damage and could set up for these crazy AoE healing sections in raiding, has been nerfed from 140% to 129%. So overall, people might be panicking here, oh my god, I'm gonna stop playing this. This is not a substantial nerf, it's not that big. I think people said it was between 3 to 5% or something overall, but Disc Priests have been the top healers by quite a bigger margin than that. They can do really good healing if you know how to play. So I feel Disc are still going to be one of the, we'll see with the latest changes, but I feel Disc are still going to be one of the top healers, but not by a mile. There's going to be more competition. So I feel this is, it's not the time to reroll. I tell you that, it's not the time to reroll. The next changes for Holy Priest, I feel are the most weirdest, because I feel there's going to be more changes here, because Holy Priest, all of their spells have been buffed. As you can see, it used to have a value of 36, now it's 40%. They all have been buffed basically. And considering that I showed you graphs before about Holy Priest healing or the HPS that they do in raids. Again, HPS is not the #1 way of determining the balance of a healer, but it can provide a good indication of where they're strong at. And I feel buffing Holy Priest is pretty weird, but they also have substantially nerfed Binding Heal's mana cost change from 2.4% to 2.9%. For the people who've been playing Holy Priest, for the people who paid attention to Binding Heal has been nerfed in terms of the mana cost so many times. So many times Binding Heal has been changed. At the start of BfA, you were able to, you know, spam. You can still do that as a Holy Priest. Spamming Binding Heal, it's extremely efficient heal. It gives you a good amount of healing. It doesn't cost that much. And now they're nerfing the mana cost, because I feel maybe Blizzard wants you to be much more aware of the fact of how you're using your Binding Heal, how many times you're using Binding Heal, and they're buffing other heals to kind of account for that. So you'll be spamming less Binding Heal, but you'll pay more attention to other heals, and they'll heal for more. I don't know, because I feel there's going to be more changes happening here, so I'm not 100% certain about Holy Priest. In terms of Azerite traits, Death Denied, Leap of Faith absorbs the next 11,000 or a specific amount damage to the target within 10 seconds, while the shield holds. Leap of Faith cooldowns 200% faster. Again, I feel this is extremely situational. I mean, it is an absorb for 10 seconds, but I mean, you have to use Leap. Maybe your tank is about to die. I mean, sometimes it's good to displace them and bring them to your location. I'm not sure. This feels like a very situational one. I don't think people are going to be wow, I have to go with this Azerite trait because I feel I'm gonna need to use my Leap of Faith on the tank all the time, or anyone else. Again, situational in my eyes. Promise of Deliverance for the 10 seconds after you cast Holy Word Serenity, which is your single target heal, which is very, very strong and has a long cooldown. Your heal and flash heals for an additional specific amount and reduces the cooldown Holy Word Serenity by an additional 1 second. So I'm assuming that after you use your Holy Word Serenity, your heal, or every heal or flash heal, is, first of all, it's going to heal for more, but also it's going to reduce the cooldown by 1 second, each one of those. So let's say you cast Serenity, then you cast like 5 flash heals, so your Serenity is reduced by additional 5 seconds. This is how I am assuming that this Azerite trait is going to work. I mean, you are kind of forced into casting heal and flash heal after Serenity, which is kind of in line in terms of the artifact bonuses that you used to have in Legion. So we'll see how that works out. Sudden Revelation. Powered Radiance has a 50% chance. So not every Radiance, but Radiance has 50% chance to cause your next Holy Nova to deal additional damage and reduce the cooldown of Radiance by 5 seconds. I feel the good part, the interesting part of this Azerite trait is to do with, like, you know, the reduction to Powered Radiance, because especially for this priest who's raiding and wants to do those crazy double Radiance into Evangelism, into Schism, Burst, Healing, this reduction could be pretty substantial, or at least it might feel pretty cool. The whole part that it causes your next Holy Nova to deal more damage is, I feel, is more of a gimmick, but I feel it could be interesting in 5-man scenarios as well, because I think right now the only time you'll be casting Holy Nova if there's 5+ targets, if there's more than 5 targets. So maybe with this, using your Radiance and getting this proc, there's going to be more priority towards using Holy Nova, and it might be interesting, but again, I feel this is more of a gimmick right now. But in 5 months it might be pretty cool, but we'll have to see. Now in terms of Resto Shaman changes, there hasn't been many. I fully expect there's going to be much more changes in the next couple of days, next coming weeks, when the patch is getting closer, because Blizzard has mentioned they wanted to change Resto Shamans much more, because they feel they have some weaknesses. In terms of Azerite traits, Turn of the Tide, which I think replaces an existing Azerite trait, I'm not sure about that, but Turn of the Tide, both bonuses of tidal waves are increased by 5%, and spells affected by it heal for an additional amount. Now for the people who don't know tidal waves is basically your bread and butter kind of playstyle for your Resto Shaman, because casting Chain Heal or Riptide reduces the cast time of your next healing wave by 20%. Healing wave is your long spell, is a long casting spell that is pretty efficient, or increases the critical effect chance of your next healing surge, which is a quick, inefficient heal. So all of a sudden, tidal waves or this Azerite trait, again, it feels pretty strong. I don't feel it brings anything in terms of the gameplay, because you'll be using it, you'll be optimizing your tidal waves the way you used to do it, but now they'll be going to heal for more. So I feel this will be strong depending on the numbers. And then the other Azerite trait, Ancient Ankh Talisman, I feel is somewhat of a joke. While Reincarnation is off cooldown, your maximum health is increased by a certain amount. While you are full health, Reincarnation cooldown 50% faster. So this is all about Reincarnation, and Reincarnation is a nice little class benefit that you have a Resto Shaman, but it's nothing to be super excited about or something to even have an Azerite trait from. I don't feel this is going to get people excited or really happy about the Resto Shaman changes. Again, I feel there's going to be much more happening in terms of Resto Shaman, so I'll make a video as well in the future if that happens. So overall, this has been my overview of all the healing class Azerite changes, their buffs, their nerfs and things like that. Again, I've not looked at the numbers, I basically looked at the gameplay that's associated with it, whether I feel it's going to be fun, whether I feel it's going to be pretty boring or it's going to be the same. I would really love to hear your opinion about these Azerite changes, whether these Azerite traits feel interesting, feel rewarding, are you excited, are you looking forward towards trying to get them? Let me know, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.